You have to pick and choose who you're going to be diplomatic with. It's not every situation that you're going to go into where diplomacy is the answer or compromise is the answer. There are certain things that can't be compromised. There are certain things that are foundationally different that cannot be compromised. It's not necessarily a trend, but it's very almost popular in the space of a idea of a healthy relationship that you have to compromise. And yes, that is true. There are certain things you have to compromise in order to, I guess you could say, make the relationship that you're trying to get to work. So if you're trying to get party A and party B to work together and you want party A and B to work together, then there's probably going to have to be some compromises if you guys just don't cohesively fit. Now, when there's a difference foundationally, or when there's a difference in certain things that can't really be compromised or shouldn't be compromised, that's when problems come around. When you start compromising on foundational things to you, like communication, or the fact that you like being touched and other people don't like being touched, the fact that you express love in this way and that's your love language, and that other person's love language is the complete, not even polar opposite of it. That's when those compromises don't really end up being compromises anymore. They become you hiding aspects of your character, or more so conforming to the perfect partner for the other person. And it sounds great on paper that you're becoming this partner that the other person wants, but what you don't realize is the underlying resentment that is being built towards the other person. So in your efforts to love someone else, you are actually beginning to hate them. And the reason you're beginning to hate them is because you're changing aspects and qualities about yourself that you love. So that can either result in two things. You're either going to start hating that person, or you're going to start hating yourself. Most likely you'll end up hating both, to be honest with you. But it's going to start internally. You're going to start hiding aspects of yourself, and you're going to start to realize that you can't really be yourself around the person that you should be yourself around. That's when compromising doesn't work. You can compromise when it comes to, oh, you like to go out for ice cream and I'm not really a dessert guy, but every once in a while we'll get dessert. That's a compromise. A compromise is not, you don't like being touched for whatever reason, I still want to touch you. There's no compromise in that. That's not a compromise anymore. These are foundationally different things. One person grew up one way, one person grew up another way. That culture clash is no longer going to be compromised. It can be done. I'm not saying it's impossible, but the odds of coming out on the other side of all that effort with genuine love, it's very unlikely. You end up bleeding on each other so much that at the end of it, you're just kind of disgusted. By the time you get to the end result, which is what you want, that healthy relationship, you're gonna be disgusted with each other. You're not gonna recognize each other. You're like, who's this? Like, when you met that person, they had a bunch of tattoos and piercings, and they were like super into like rock or whatever those case may be. And now they wear like suits every day, and they listen to nothing but classical music, and they work a desk job that they hate, but they do it for you. That is no longer a compromise. And if it is a compromise, it's a bad compromise. The moment that you start hiding aspects of your own character, the moment that you start really changing the way that you like to live, and I'm not talking about bad qualities about yourself, I'm talking about qualities that another person might deem or perceive as bad or not like. There's things that are objectively bad, and there's things that are perceived as bad. There's things that hurt other people that are objectively bad, and there are things that you do to yourself that most people might not like. Certain people don't like piercings, certain people don't like dreadlocks, certain people don't like tattoos. Are these things hurting anybody else? They're not, but I have them. Now let's say I come across somebody and I really love this person, and they're like, oh, I want you to cut your hair off. I want you to, get tattoo removal surgery, or I want you to, work a desk job and do this and do that, and you don't want to do that. The more I start doing those things, the more I start losing a piece of myself to this person and becoming the version of myself that they want me to be, the more I will begin to hate. Even if it's subconscious, I will begin to associate that person with everything I am not. And that's seen as an attack on the self. Like, you understand? So the moment that you get into these situations, you feel like you're compromising your character, you're compromising who you are, it's better to just leave the situation than it is to try to really change who you are fundamentally. Don't change who you are fundamentally for anyone. If you have a toxic quality about yourself, if you lack the ability to communicate well, that is something that you should compromise on working to fix, because that's a bad habit, it's a bad quality. It affects the people around you in a negative space. But if it's something that's foundationally different between you and the other party, it does not make sense to continuously try to get them to see it from your angle. I'm not saying that it won't ever happen, But I'm saying that by the time you get to that point, you're not gonna like that person anymore. By the time you finally get that person to accept you and see you from your angle, you're no longer gonna care, because you realize how much it took for them to even see you in that light. So you're just like, yo, bro, like, I'm done. You know, you see it in so many relationships to where you start out one way and you try so hard, you try so adamantly to get this person to change, and when they finally change, you don't even want them anymore. It's because you exerted so much effort, you exerted so much time, effort, attention, and energy in trying to get this person to change. And then when you succeed at it, you realize how much you had to do to get them to see it from your perspective alone. So it's almost as if, as opposed to you guys starting from here, this person started from down here and you're here. You're picking them up, dragging them up here, and now you still got to keep climbing. Or you're climbing, and every now and then you got to look down and be like, oh shit, and you got to come back down, grab them, oh, climb, come back down, grab them, oh, climb. You don't want to get into that headspace. You don't want to do that. Certain things aren't worth the diplomacy. It may seem selfish, it may seem a little f***ed up, but what I find to be worse is acting like those things don't bother you. Is acting like it's okay for you to do this again and again and again and again and again, and you're not tired at the end of the day. That you don't sit down at the end of the day and you're not frustrated. You know what I mean? How many times do you really get tight about the same thing with this person, to where it's like, okay, bro, clearly this is who they are. I need to accept that. Accepting yourself is one thing, but learning to accept people as they truly are as opposed to what you want them to be is a whole nother demon within itself that a lot of people have yet to conquer, myself included. We tend to look at people for what they could be or what we want them to be, as opposed to who they actually are. You need to spend more time being present with who people actually are.